Are you living the divine life? Many of us are not, and there just might be a few things keeping us from this. Welcome to Living a Sacred Life with Dr. Raymond Anderson. In our program, you'll learn to use the tools that have been given to you to make changes that you need, and by doing so, come one step closer to living that divine life. Now, here is your host, Reverend Dr. Raymond Anderson. Are you living the divine life? Many of us are not, and there just might be a few things keeping us from this. Welcome to Living a Sacred Life with Dr. Raymond Anderson. In our program, you'll learn to use the tools that have been given to you to make changes that you need, and by doing so, come one step closer to living that divine life. Now, here is your host, Reverend Dr. Raymond Anderson.
So for those of you who were here, March 24th, when last I spoke here, you will remember that I had a box. The box is no more. I mean, it exists, but it's not here today. But before you now, there's a bag. And within the bag, there are gifts for you. So stay tuned. But focus not on the bag, focus on the program. So, today I find it very interesting or synchronistic that today's Father's Day. And the reason I find it so is because the majority of what today's message is about relates to a very important key message or lesson that my own father taught me. So let me give you a little bit of background information. There was this one particular day when, I don't remember what movie it was. It may have been Star Wars, the original, the first one, the fourth one, George Lucas. It may have been the original Star Trek. It may have been Superman, Christopher Reeve, Superman. I'm not sure which one it was, but I know I wanted to see this movie. Previously, anytime that I went to see the movies, I would go with friends or family. This one particular time, no one was available. I don't remember why, but no, maybe they didn't want to see the movie, I don't remember. But I wanted to see the movie. So I'm sitting around the house and I'm sulking, and my father says, Monty, which is my nickname. Monty, what's up? What's wrong? I want to go to the movies. Then go. But no one's available. So what? No, Dad, you don't understand. Going to the movies is supposed to be a communal experience. I'm supposed to be there with friends and enjoy myself. Then stay home and don't see it. But I want to see the movie. Then go. So we went on this merry-go-round thing for a hot second. And somewhere in there he said, why don't you just go? Surprise yourself. You might actually enjoy it. So what did I do? I went to the movies. And isn't it interesting that I actually enjoyed myself? I enjoyed myself so much, in fact, that after that, I'd rather go to the movies by myself. Because I didn't have my friends and cousins and yap. So I could actually focus on the movie. I could hear everything that was being said. So let's fast forward to part 2. I'm graduating high school. And I want to go to the Art Institute of Pittsburgh to study graphic illustration and design. However, I remember a distinct message from one of my art teachers in high school who said, you don't have the talent. You can't do it. You'll be wasting your time and your money, so don't bother. Great teacher, huh? So I hear this rumbling in my mind. So I'm, a little apprehensive about going to the Art Institute, and what am I going to do? So my father, once again, sees me sitting around the house, smoking. What's wrong? Well, Dad, I'm thinking I really want to go to the Art Institute. So what's the problem? Well, such and such art teacher, I'm hopefully none of you know, Mr. Webb said, it's a small world, somebody might be related. Mr. Webb said, I have no talent, I have no skill, it's a waste of time, it's a waste of money, Negative, 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 negative. And he said, so you would rather listen to him than follow your own heart? So, whoa. So, Dad, wait a minute. So what are you saying? Once again, he said, why don't you go? You might enjoy it. You might surprise yourself because you'll be doing what you want to do instead of listening to the naysayers. So what did I do? That Monday morning, I called the Art Institute and set up an appointment to go in, and I registered and went there, and I graduated. That was degree number 1. Let's jump a little. 2001, I'm a student at Virginia Commonwealth University, studying, getting my master's in theater education, and it's summer. And I get a letter from my father, and it felt different. I read between the lines, and it was different. Something in there said, you need to come home. Didn't say that in the words, but in the feeling. So as soon as the semester was done, I raced home. Stayed home for a week, 2 weeks, and on the day right before it was time for me to go back to VCU, my father and I sat in his room. And I did what I had done for so many years while living at home. I filled his water pitcher, brought it into him, sat it down, we sat down and chatted. And he said to me, you know, remember when you were in elementary school and the doctors diagnosed me with ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, and they said that I had approximately 2 to 4 years to live? And I said, yes, I remember. And he said, the only thing that I could focus on was I wanted to see you get from elementary school to middle school. And I did that. And then I wanted to see you get from middle school to high school. And I did that. And then I wanted to see you graduate high school and go off to college or do whatever it is that you wanted to do with your life. And even though I wasn't there physically to see you graduate, I was there. I saw it happen. I did that. So then I said, well, hey, already gone past the 4 years. I want to see you become a grown man living a happy, healthy, free life. And here you are. I'm ready to go. And I didn't want to hear that, but I honored him. And I went back to Richmond, and 3 months later, my father died. Everything that he had taught me throughout my entire childhood and into adulthood is still here. That's one of the main guiding lights that I hear. I hear, surprise yourself. And from my father's life, let's backtrack a little bit more. Several years before my father reconnected with my mother, and then reconnected and birthed me, my father was in jail. When he was young, he was what my mother's mother called a thug. Because my father and my mother knew each other when they were young, when they were 9, 10 years old. And my grandmother said, Lois, you stay away from that boy. And my mother said, oh, Mom, mark my words, that boy gonna end up in jail. And my grandmother was right. My father ended up in jail for involuntary manslaughter. He was sentenced to life, and he served approximately 25, I always forget the number, approximately 25 years of that life sentence. And while in jail, my father evolved. And he evolved, I like this little play on words, he evolved. There was an evolution by way of a revolution involving his involution. Meaning, he evolved, he changed, he transformed by revolutionizing, transforming, changing. I mean, what's a revolution? An upheaval, a turn, that's a revolution. We all do that for a hot second? We will practice that, Amy. We'll work with you. And this revolution involves your involution. You know, the Bible says, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and all else will be added. Okay? That's good. If I find this, then this. And it's not just find this and get some of this. It's seek ye first the kingdom of heaven and all, I like that three-letter word, all else will be added. But the key thing is, where is it? What did Jesus say? Look within. The kingdom of heaven is within. That's the involution. So my father evolved by revolting, by transforming and changing his life, by becoming involved in his life. When he turned within, when he stopped looking out there and blaming this and blaming that and blaming whomever and said, this is about me. What do I need to do to be happy, healthy, and whole? So he's in jail. And he would often joke about making, like his really best friend was called library. And he often would joke about, I think I read every book that the prison library had. Because it didn't matter what the subject matter was. He didn't care about the topic. He just wanted to read. So he read everything. And then they had a band. So he got involved with every instrument. And it wasn't to master the instrument. He just wanted to have a rudimentary, basic understanding of the flute, the drum, the tuba, the trombone, the harp. Whatever they had, he practiced. Every sport. Didn't matter if it was ping pong, football, baseball. He got involved in it. And even when they had, the prison lockdown and forced you to stay in your cell, when other prisoners, because of the walls and the bars, were losing their minds, self-abuse and going to solitary and committing suicide, my father sat in his cell and he counted bricks on the wall. And I know him well enough to know that, now I don't know that he would call it a mantra, but I know him well enough to know there was some kind of rhythmic something. And when he told me that, I kept thinking, oh my God, my father's crazy. He counted bricks. But in truth, that was the thing that helped him transform his life, because it made him look in here. When the other prisoners were looking out there at the guards and the other prisoners and fussing about life, my father said, I did this. Take ownership. What do I need to do to change me? And then he changed. So then, once again, he gets out and he meets my mother again, they reconnect, and then they marry, and then they birth me. And throughout my entire life, all of these lessons hung with me. Now, when my father was first diagnosed with Lou Gehrig's disease, and they gave him a tooth for years, it hit me really hard. No one wants to hear that their father's going to, die. But I held on to, because there were a lot of family fights and feuds and things, because there was alcoholism and stuff in the house. There was a lot of stuff. We can chat about that one day over dinner. Despite all of that, what I did was focus on the periodic moments of outrageous laughter and smiles. And yes, I developed a lot of baggage related to the bad stuff. Yeah. But at some point, because of all the lessons that my father gave me, number one being to surprise myself, because I've gotten to the point now where in my life, as soon as I hear the naysayers, I immediately go back with, despite what they say, surprise yourself. Forget about them. Because you're listening to them right now, which means somewhere in you, you want to believe them. Surprise you. You think you can't, go out and do it. Why not? So growing up, my father and I used to watch, I don't know if anyone's a Kung Fu fan or David Carradine fan, but we used to watch Kung Fu. David Carradine. And I love that show. And not just for, the stuff. That was great and all. But it had philosophy. There were morals to the story. They would do this and whatever in the Western times, and then he would have flashbacks of Master Po and the other monks teaching the lesson. And I loved that. And that, my father would always ask me, so what did you learn from this? It's a good question. Dad, I don't know. What did you learn from it? I'm asking you. And we would have dialogue back and forth. And for those who were here, you remember that I talked about my archetypes, the superheroes, and what I get from them. This all started because my father and I used to watch Kung Fu. And he used to ask me, here's a television show but it's teaching you. And that taught me how to, you know this guy named Alan Watts? Anybody even know this guy named Alan Watts? Okay, so Alan Watts tells this story about how he went to Japan and he was studying with a Zen master, and they were having a dialogue about people who were in the process of translating many of the Zen classics into English. And the master said, "What a bore. It is a waste of time." And Alan's like, what do you mean it's a waste of time? He said, it doesn't matter what the book is. It could be the Bible. If you're a Zen master, if you are really involved in Zen, it could be the Bible, and you're going to get Zen wisdom from it. It could be Alice in Wonderland, and you're going to get Zen wisdom from it. It could be the dictionary, and you're going to get Zen wisdom from it. Because raindrops falling don't need a translation. First time I heard that, I had no idea what that meant. But now looking back, I can connect that. Every movie that I see, every book that I read, somewhere in the lines, somewhere in there, there are lessons. Anybody in here a Harry Potter fan? I brought toys. What this is? I told you I was a nerd. Yes. So you know who this belongs to, right? Who? Yes, thank you. Okay, I said it. Oh, yeah. See if you get this one. Yes, and that one belongs to Harry. I don't even care about anybody else's. So, for those who read the book or saw the movie, there's this really great line where after, I don't want, spoiler alert, I'm gonna put your fingers in your ears to them. There's this part where Harry dies. And he's in this limbo heaven-like place. And he's chatting with Dumbledore, his mentor teacher. And he says, "Sir, I've got a question for you." Okay, I'm done. I have one last, yeah, thank you, Amy. I have one last question for you. Dumbledore says, "Yes, what's the question?" He said, "Is this all happening in my mind? Or is it really happening?" And Dumbledore says, "Of course, Harry, it's happening in your mind. But what's the difference between that and reality?" My son and I saw this movie, and I'm sitting there with Cody, and we're like, wow. We looked at each other, we're like, wow, that was profound. That one line, because it said, what happens in mind, what happens in consciousness, and what happens in reality are the exact same thing. Who would have thought that Dumbledore was a practitioner? So I'm mystified by this whole thing. So I almost had an emotional moment, sorry. So today being Father's Day, I always think back and I remember, what did my father give to me? What am I giving to my children? What am I giving to my community? Because it's always about evolving, not being evolved, not being enlightened, evolving, enlightening, because it's always a process. There's never, voila, it is the end. I'm enlightened. I am done. I do not have to do this anymore. It doesn't happen. It's not done. The one mind, the universe, love is ever expanding. Doesn't contract, doesn't shrivel, it doesn't shrink. It grows. And the more you're involved in it, the more it grows. And the more you share it, the more it grows. That's why gratitude, and I don't remember who said it, feel free to help me out. If gratitude was all you ever said, that prayer would be enough. If gratitude was your only prayer, that would be enough. It expands. The more you're involved in it, it grows and expands. If I may, before it's time for me to go, and I have gifts that I want you First of all, I've had too much stuff. I'm good, okay. So before I go, I would like to leave you with a poem. Because the other day I was sitting at home and I was thinking, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do this. And having that woman mad at me is a really neat. So I said, I'm going to do what Siddhartha Gautama did, and I'm going to go find a Bodhi tree, and I'm going to sit under it and meditate until Spirit says, here it is, now go. Because I don't want her mad at me. And the reason, she said, I want to be mad at you. And the reason that I say I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to do this is because it's Father's Day. And I have those emotional moments where, it wells up. However, while I was meditating, and I haven't written a poem, and do not think Maya Angelou, while I have not written a poem in a while, a poem did well up in me, and if it's okay, I would like to share it with you. That'll make Amy mad at me. When you look at an acorn, what do you see? One tiny seed sitting so unassumingly? Do you see food that a squirrel might eat? Or is it merely an acorn to crush under your feet? Can you see the tree that it can become when it dies to itself and aligns with the one? Not only that, if you care to see, from that single acorn, a forest could be. From shell to its core, yes, it's only an acorn, and yet so much more. When buried in darkness, deep in the earth, because of its love, it dies to give birth. From the tiniest of acorns springs forth the tree that in due season demonstrates prosperity. For from that one acorn and the tree it became, thousands and millions of acorns fall to live out the same dream. And you, like the acorn, hear a whisper, if still. You know there's a dream for you to fulfill. To evolve and to become what you already are. Not merely a person, a parent, a minister, a star. You are already divine. So stop seeking the how. Just let go and fly. Go surprise yourself now.